We want to get started. So, well, welcome. Good morning. Great first session by Pastor Jeff in there, and it's just great to see everybody, leaders coming together like this and want to just learn and get some new tools in their tool belt. And I'm thankful to be a part of this. So thank you for being here. You signed up for why Santa always picks Rudolph to lead the herd. And that's what we're going to kind of reference today, this morning, as we talk about some stuff. Personal introduction. My name is Matt Armstrong. Unlike a lot of people you were here today, I'm not a professional speaker. So if you want to try to get a refund, see Leanne, but I think she already spent your money on the donuts this morning. So I'm the co-founder of Huey Magoo's Restaurants. That is my day job, and I've been doing that. I've been doing that and in leadership for 20 plus years, specifically with that one company. 20 years, yeah. We opened the first restaurant in 2004. But 20 years or 25 plus years of leadership, I continue to learn a lot every day, and it's usually what not to do. I think that was the basis for our business plan back in 2004 was, well, don't do that again. And that's kind of how we learn and how we learn. I've never really been the smartest person in my field or in school, except for when I went to kindergarten. I was the smartest kid in my kindergarten class. Back then they didn't have valedictorians for kindergarten and graduations and all that stuff like they had today. But if they did, you would have seen my name in the valedictorian of the kindergarten. I grew up on a farm. We had crops and livestock, cattle, hogs, that kind of stuff, and but by the time I was 4 years old, I knew all my numbers. I knew how to add, subtract, quickly, I might add. So I was good to go by the time I got to kindergarten. Every morning at 6 a.m., it was my job to turn the nursing sows in from the feedlot into the stalls where the babies were. And I would, each sow had a number on her back, and I would be standing inside in the chute, which was about yay wide, so you didn't have any room for bailout. And I'd be standing there, and there was that moment there where you're waiting, right? And my grandfather, he'd call out a number, and you didn't know what that. You didn't know what that number was going to be, but that sow had a number on her back, and I had to find it, and I had to get to. We had about 40 stalls, but they didn't have numbers on them. I don't know why we didn't ever number those. It'd been a lot easier, but so you'd have to get somewhere between like about stall 20, because if you heard one called, well, you had about 2 seconds to get to one and get the pen out of the gate and open it, for the hog to go in. But because there was no calling in order, whatever sow was closest to the chute, that's who was coming in. Because I'm sitting there, fiddling with the daggum pen trying to get it out, and then you got a 400-pound animal coming right at you as a 4 or 5-year-old that's about the same height you are, coming down this, snorting, coming down this chute. I mean, it was stressful. So you had to be able to do math on the fly. So that's how I learned, but my arithmetic. But enough about herding pigs, I guess. We'll talk about member of Santa's herd, which is Rudolph. and why Santa chooses him to lead the herd. Most of y'all know the story about Rudolph, right? I mean, it's a pretty fun story. You heard it probably since you were kids. Fantastic story about this, outcast reindeer who, he's got nothing to offer, and he ends up landing the most important job, to get packages from the North Pole to your homes, and leading Santa's sleigh and all that. Santa's relied on Rudolph, time and time again to lead him around the world and get him back safely. I mean, think about it, that's a big responsibility, to lead, in that way. A lot of trust. But Santa trusts Rudolph to be there and be ready and get the job done. I don't know how many missions Rudolph went on by now, but gosh, it's probably got to be pushing 2,000, I would say, missions he's been on, through blizzards, fog, all kinds of danger. It's safe to say that Rudolph does not let being uncomfortable stop him from his purpose, which is leading Santa's sleigh. He's got to face the elements. He's got to face, it's cold, it's nasty, the chilling wind hitting him right in the face, and, he can't close his mouth. He's got a bit in his mouth. He's got to be in tip-top physical condition. I mean, this is a daunting task, but there's very little comfort from his vantage point. Comfort can be a problem, though, especially when there's too much of a desire for it. Comfort is a big cause for people not reaching their full potential. We're addicted to comfort, especially here in the United States. It's pretty nice weather here, compared to the North Pole, I guess you would say. But satisfaction is what we're after. I mean, we're seeking that comfort. We're seeking, this satisfaction mindset because we feel like that's where we've won. If we get to that point, we've won. That is winning. Is getting to a satisfactory point where we feel comfortable. We feel good about it. We feel like we've accomplished this to get to this nice, easy state of living in a cozy life. If that were true, why do some of the world's greatest success stories, why do those people come from some of the hardest places, if that was true? The reason is because they weren't satisfied. They were not satisfied where they were at. And they wanted to do something about it. They were determined to do something about it. And that's what ultimately made them successful. We see it in athletics all the time as well. But comfort's what we need, though, right? We need comfort. Just look around. Look at society. Comfort is being sold to us everywhere we turn. I mean, just look. You can't turn on a TV. I mean, every advancement in goods and services, both are marketed. They're all marketed with a selling point: ease, comfort, and protection. Every one of them. I mean, if you're a marketing CEO, I mean, that's what you breathe and walk every morning. It don't matter what product it is, ease, comfort, protection. And look at the commercials. You look at car commercials, they're really good because they got all three. How many things can you come up with to make our drives easier, safer, more comfortable? I even noticed it on a can of shaving cream the other day. I took a picture of it. Right there in the middle of the can of shaving cream, in a big circle, blue circle with white letters, it says, comfort and protection. I'm like, on a shaving cream. Here's an interesting study. University of California, Berkeley did a study of amoebas. Y'all don't think about amoebas too. At least I don't. Y'all know what those are. They're like little, nasty little blobs, like little microbes, something. Amoebas, little nasty deals. But anyway, they looked at stressed amoebas versus non-stressed amoebas. They did this two groups: stressed amoebas and the ones that weren't stressed. I'm not sure how they determined that. But it's California, guys. Stay with me, okay? It's so I'm not. Yeah. So but in order to alleviate the stress, here's what they did. They gave them the environment. Here's the environment they put them in. They put them in the ideal temperature, not North Pole temperature. Ideal temperature, optimal moisture, and a constant food supply, probably gumdrops and candy canes or something. So they gave them ideal temperature, optimal moisture, constant food supply. The amoebas had to make no adjustments whatsoever. They were completely content little blobs. And there was good news though. The amoebas no longer showed signs of ulcers or high blood pressure. Who knew amoebas could have high blood pressure? And we're learning a lot about amoebas here. But here was the bad news. They died. The study, just by itself, the amoebas died. It killed them. With the best life that they could possibly create for the amoebas in the study, they couldn't make it. Cal Berkeley's conclusion was that simple life forms need a challenge to survive, just to survive. After the study, I think they had to put the amoebas on the endangered species list in California, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. But I say all life forms need a challenge to survive. That's why we're here. We were created for a purpose. We were created to do something. We were created to be something, not just seek comfort. Look at Rudolph. He takes the cold headwind dead on. He gives us that example. The question is, how do we succeed like Rudolph does? How do we learn from his motivation? We're going to dive into that. I don't have any fancy buzzwords or slideshow presentations. I'm just talking here, so and I've never been accused of talking too fast. So if y'all, but I'm learning. I'm learning. So if y'all need me to slow down to make a point or write something down, please stop me. But I think Jeff said it in there a while ago. We all drove here from. We all come from different backgrounds. We all drove here from different houses and different vehicles. We've all got, different upbringings, different backgrounds, different educations. We all work different jobs. But one thing we all have in common, and that is our struggle to reach our full potential. Every one of us falls short in that category. Every one of us sitting in these chairs has some amount of unrealized potential in some area of our life. It could be our jobs, but it could be a lot of other things. In order to be better and be winners, we've got to look at this and be willing to take some risks. Rudolph straps in and he thinks about the mission ahead. It's not an easy mission. Traveling the world in one night ain't easy. It's the hard stuff that's what holds us back, is the hard stuff. The hard stuff we try to avoid at all costs. We will make decisions in our lives whether that's how we will base the decision, is trying to know if it will make our lives harder or easier. Maybe some of you stepped out before. Maybe some of y'all have stepped out before to do something big. You took that risk, and maybe it didn't go the way you wanted. You quit. I've tried it. Hey, and it didn't work. Who's done that? I mean, I started 2 businesses, before I'm the one I'm in now. We have to expect problems if we're going to step out and do something, and whatever that may be. It's hard to overcome obstacles. I understand that. We all understand that, but we're here today to learn how to push through them so we can be more. There's problems lurking everywhere. I mean, everything is risky. Everything. I mean, you get right down to it, life is a risk. I mean, realize it or not, I mean, you could have just not even come here today, and you could have just stayed in bed, and you could be one of 500,000 ER visits a year for people getting out of bed or a chair. All getting out of a bed or a chair, going to the ER. You can, when you go home tonight, you can close your blinds, and you can be one of 10 people that hang themselves every year on the cords. Or you can play the bigger percentages and drive your vehicle around, 6.75 million car crashes a year. It's safe to say, if you're looking for safety, you've come to the wrong earth. You have come to the wrong earth. Safety, like I said, making decisions based on hardships and when someone fails, 2 things are going to happen. They're going to quit, or they're going to say, that will never happen again. That's the only 2 mentalities you can really have. That's what winners do. They fail and they get better. Same thing happened to Rudolph. He was ran out of town by his buddies. His nose made him an outcast. But here's a key point. Hear me on this. Failure does not shape you. The way you respond to failure, that's what shapes you. You can quit, or you can come back slugging. Winners grow from their failures. The history books are filled with below average, below average people that do way above average things. That's what the history books are filled with. The best analogy I can give you in sports, I love sports. I know some of y'all do too. It's been a life for me. I've played sports my whole life, and sports is the failingest thing you will ever do. There is no doubt about it. It is the absolute failingest thing you will ever do. And if you've played sports, you know what I'm saying. You fail in sports way more than you succeed. And it don't matter the sports. I mean, it don't matter the sport. You pick one. Baseball. I mean, best hitters in the world in baseball. I mean, you bat 300 in major leagues. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, 3 times out of 10 at bats you get a hit. The other 7 you failed. NFL. Everybody watches. A lot of people watch NFL football. If you just barely have a winning record, most years you win your division. Just by barely winning one more game than you lost, you win your division.
We're counting on it.
There you go.
You're waiting.
And Dallas, we're counting on it too. Individual sports. I mean, same thing. How about golf? Tiger Woods. I mean, everybody. We were talking about.
That's the failingest sport,
Yeah, Tiger Woods won everything, right? I mean, Tiger Woods is the man. 20%. He won 2 out of every 10 tournaments he played in. That's it. The other 8 he lost. And that's over his whole career. You know what that tells me? failing is motivation to win, or should be. Failing should be motivation to win. Any thoughts on that? I mean, questions. I can give you a lot of examples on that one. Sticking with sports, pro sports teams, NFL, NBA, MLB, whatever. When they draft or they recruit, kids coming out of high school or college or minor leagues or wherever they're coming from, but when they get to that team, the very first day they show up at that office, meet all the teammates, they get there. Every single one of them were the best in the world before they got there that day. Wherever they came from, New York to Arizona, wherever they came from, they were the best before they got there on day one. But by the second day, they better realize that they're not. Or they're fixing to get humbled real quick. Because if you can't get humbled, you can't grow. If you're sitting there feeling like, I know everything as a leader, just do what I tell you to do because I know everything as a leader, you're saying you've got no room to grow. You've got no capacity to hear anybody else's initiatives or direction. You've got to humble yourself to be willing to grow and ultimately win and be forward thinking. Rudolph's not thinking about what happened in the past. At some point in our lives, if we don't decide to be better, at whatever that is, you fill in the blank. I mean, this is a leadership conference. I mean, it can be jobs, but there are a lot of other things people lead in, whether it's families, relationships, communities. The list goes on of where we can make an impact. But at some point in our lives, if we don't decide to be better, the days are going to come weeks. The weeks are going to start clicking off, and the months are going to start flying like reindeer. And the next thing we know, we're looking back on life with realization, we have lost a pile of opportunity. A pile. Sadly, not many say, yeah, I'm up to the challenge. Put me in, coach. No, that's why there's not as many leaders in organizations as there are team members. Give me some hay and a Gatorade. I'm ready to strap in. Let's go. But, it's not easy. I get it. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's much easier to just keep on doing what we're doing. Just keep on doing what we've been doing. Getting back to that mentality of, whatever's easiest, whatever's going to make life better or cozy. Believe me, it's way easier to just keep on plugging on with the old status quo. That's easy. I know how to do that. We'd rather think about the good old days, wouldn't we? We'd rather, last summer I went back to my hometown and I got to run into people I hadn't seen in 25 years probably. In small towns, there's plenty of talk about unrealized potential, let me tell you. My friends, they caught me up on all the history of the good old days, and how they played out. We got to talking, you heard about so-and-so, didn't you? You tell me about so-and-so, and then they tell me about so-and-so, and then, I'd ask them a few, and, most of the woulda, coulda, shoulda athletes, well, they were either just getting out of prison or had just gone back in. The valedictorian who ended up dropping out of 3 schools. I ain't making this up, y'all. The homecoming queen who's now got a girlfriend and they live out and run meth out of a trailer out on Dead Man's Curb. Just like, your typical small town gossip. But in fairness, and I said this earlier, all of us have some amount of unrealized potential. Every one of us. Sacrifices we never made, lives we never touched, conversations we never had. But the good news is that, and it's a fact, we still got abilities that are ready to be deployed. Every one of us in this room. Every one of us. To be part of something bigger than ourselves. You know, many of us we spend more time fretting over, you know, what we should have done versus what we need to be doing right now. You know, it's easy to think about all them times in your life. You know, what if I'd have done this instead of done that? You know, what if I'd have moved to that city when I had the chance instead of staying here or there? You know, what if I'd have taken that job or, you know, majored in that field instead of what I ended up, you know, I would have been where I needed to be today, and on and on and on and on. You know, and the rest of us not only fear the decisions we should have made, we're you know, fearful of the ones we got to make right now, as you know, where we're part of in our adult life. You know, do I start that business I've been thinking about for years? You know, do I start serving my community instead of just constantly fretting over my career and trying to climb the ladder? I mean, everybody comes from a different spot of where they're at. You know, I would pursue another job, but that just means I got to start over. You know, I would like to grow spiritually, but right now I just don't have the time right now to do that. It's just not the good timing for me right now. You know, when I feel more confident in myself, I'll take the first step. You know, when my boss is more supportive, then I'll be more supportive. Or better yet, how about when my spouse starts putting in more into the relationship, then I'll start. I'm not saying, you know, be impulsive or let me be clear, I'm not saying, you know, we just constantly need to be looking for ways to be impulsive or reckless with our lives. You know, sometimes when we feel like we add any risk element or look at anything big that God may be laying on our hearts or our lives, we just immediately see clouds of smoke just billowing up from our lives. Like it's just going to go up in smoke, every bit of burn to the ground. I mean, just, you know, well, Matt, that's easy for you to say. I'm just not that kind of person. I'm just not a risk taker. You know, I'm not wired that way. Great, you're not alone. You know, and you can ask yourself for just a little bit more. You know, we can't just brand ourselves as, you know, this, or you fill in the blank from here to eternity. I mean, that's giving up. And it's a lie, by the way. You know, we're all called by God. We're all equipped. And we're all expected to contribute. Let me repeat that. We're all called. We're all expected to contribute. We may not like our gifts. You know, we or feel like we don't have any, or we don't have anything to offer. But that's just not true either. You know, I may torture myself by desiring gifts that I don't have and consider mine no good, but that's just not true. Each person in this room has been given some sort of talent. Now, what we're doing with it, that's a good question to ask. Rudolph was put in his position because he had light. He was able to shine a light in the form of a red nose. Here's an interesting fact. Anybody ever wonder why his nose was red? Why didn't he even have like a 1,000,000 candle watt LED hanging out there? You know, been a lot brighter. But red light casts stronger and longer wavelengths than any other color of light. You know, blue, fluorescent, whatever. Red light casts stronger and longer wavelengths than normal light. So it's not coincidence that his nose was red. But the story of Rudolph with that nose is fitting for what we're called to be. I mean, we're called to be light. We're called to be that salt and that light, that city on a hill. We need to be doing our own performance reviews. Anybody ever had a performance review at work? I mean, it's how'd that go? What'd they say? Well, Joe, your attendance has been pretty good. Your projects are getting completed on time, but your coworkers and customers say you're an absolute nightmare to work with. I don't know. I'm just making this stuff up. I've never had a performance review at work, but I bet some of y'all have some funny stories to share on that. I'd love to hear them, but.
What about your attendance is good, but if you keep working the way you are, we'd like you to take a couple of days off.
Y'all signed up for a leadership conference. I mean, that's why we're here today. Jeff said it very first opening remarks this morning. We're here for a leadership conference. Natural leaders should want to win. Leaders should be looking for opportunities. You're obviously a leader. You're here this morning. But, between this day and your last day, you're going to give your effort to something. You're going to give your effort to a lot of different things. And I'm not talking about brushing your teeth and checking your fake book in the morning. What are you giving your effort to beyond just work? You go to these leadership conferences and it's all about work. Well, it really shouldn't be. It really is more of a mindset and a way to live life. I mean, if we want people to hear, if we want people that we're leading to hear us, we've got to look at how, and what we're communicating. Jeff made it perfectly clear in the first session about, the direction has to be clear. And he's so true. But it's not only our words, it's our actions as a leader. To show how we're living our life. That's a life that people want to follow, not just because of our words or the title on our shirts or our business cards. In business, it's all about the P words, right? It's all about, products and performance and projections, profits. And and to that end, we're pursuing those things. That's those 4 P words. And, it makes my world, it makes me chuckle sometimes because you see these pro formas and these budgets, drawn at 5 years, projections, 7 years, 10 years. We're going to project 10 years what we're going to do. I'm like, this is, are you kidding me? I mean, 10 years, how about let's just try to get through today to lunch break. This year we're going to do this. And then this is our theme for the year. We're going to do this. Next, and then we're going to do that. And then that's going to do this for us. And then, and then once we do that, we're going to reach our ultimate goal, which is this. And then after we do that, we're King Kong. We're going to be the 800-pound gorilla. Nobody's going to touch us. If that's what we're communicating to our teams, they ain't listening. I promise you. You might as well buy everybody on your team earbuds for Christmas. They ain't listening. Our careers, how important are they? It's easy to get consumed by those. I know I've been guilty of it over the years. Especially if you're in an organization surrounded by people where that's expected, where their jobs are everything, or seemingly everything to them. They're worshiping at the altar of, ABC company. Their work is their family. It's their life, their religion. For many people, that's where they sacrifice. You know, like I said, you know, and if you're with a company where everybody's doing that, well, that becomes a status quo, and that's just the expectation. And you know, if you're not that person, you know, and you work side by side with people who you know can't even understand how you would take a vacation. We got all this work to do, and they're taking off. They're going on vacation for 2 weeks or 5 days or whatever it is. You know, I'm in management, leadership, I struggle against this every day. You know, people that think if you have any commitments, once they get to any commitments or any dedications outside of work, well, they think you're not committed. Well, that, you're not all in. But if we want to live out a language with our lives that people actually want to follow, here's a list. I can't spend an hour with y'all and not at least give you a list. The first one is, do people see you putting faith in something more than the company or your work? That would be number one. Do people see you that, okay, wait, they're good at what they do and it's important to them, but man, their life has so much more going on that I didn't know about. They care about so many more things. They're involved in so many more things. That's a leadership quality in itself. Being in the franchise world, I get to interact with a lot of business, business owners, and sadly, most of their lives are just consumed by running their business. They pick up. We talk and we get to know each other, and they pick up on things sometimes, and they'll ask me. I've had people ask me, why are you not as hardcore and pushy as everybody else? It's everybody else in leadership. It seems they just got the foot to the gas all the time. They say, you don't care as much. I'm like, no, I care just as much. Probably more. You get right down to it. But I'm not going to let my job or money consume my life. And that's what I tell them. I'm not going to do that. I just be honest with them. I mean, I want to learn and learn how to win and be useful at other things too. Not just trying to see how much money I can make at the end of the day. Second one is if you want to have a life language that others want to follow, is, am I showing compassion to more than just customers? It's easy to show compassion towards the customers because you want that sale. You want to do business with them, so you're going to treat them as nice as you can to try to win them over to get business from them. That's an easy one. But how are you treating your team members? Or looking at treating your team members, your bosses, your vendors, people that you interact with. Every time I open a restaurant, I've learned, what's important. I learn more of what's important to our team members. And, before we do a grand opening, I'll typically, have a little speech, and it usually goes something like, you in the hospitality business, everything is all about the guest. I mean, you're taught from in hospitality, the guest. That's like hospitality 101, right? It's all about the guests. And I tell them, I start off in the morning saying, I don't care what you've heard, I don't care what you learned at hospitality school at UCF. I don't, care what you think you know about hospitality. It's not about our guests. You look to your left, you look to your right, and that's who it's about. Because if you look at that person next to you and you say, I'm going to serve them, I'm going to love them, and I'm going to give them grace when they screw up, and you have a true, meaningful work relationship in that way with that person, we don't have to worry about our customers not being treated right. Because if you treat each other right, if you treat each other that way, the customers are irrelevant. Even when that guy comes in to change the rugs at the front door and you treat him the same, I don't have to worry about that if you adopt that mentality. Now, when we do that, now we started to create a culture. Now we started to create a culture the way we're treating people, starting with the person we work next to every day, which is typically who we have the most problems with.
Preach it.
Which leads us to kind of the third thing, which is, are we showing an interest in our team members' lives? Are we showing interest in their lives? None of this stuff is about business. None of it. We got a little bit. I'm gonna have to pick up the pace here. I know we got lunch coming up, and I'm gonna cause y'all from missing lunch. Let's see. Where was I? Yeah. So the other thing is, who gets credit for our success? Too many times in business, or in our structures, we have goals, which are good things. We have successes in business, and we're constantly hearing bosses congratulate the teams and congratulate all the hard work that went in. We did it. As leaders, when we do that, if we let them know that the creator of the universe is getting the glory for what just happened, that's another way to communicate. So that's number 4. Is showing that we're granting success to God. Granting successes to God. People say that, they'll say that all the time. I hear it all the time. The people I see around, man, did you ever thought you'd open this many restaurants? Y'all just started. I remember when y'all started back in 2004 over in that little gas station over there. I ain't that good, trust me. But the one that lives in me is. And he's the one that should get the credit. And then the 5th one is, we have a lot of decisions. We're constantly making decisions as leaders in our work lives. And we tend to make decisions based on those 4 or 5 P's I said, profits, performance, products, all those things. That's what we tend to make the decision on. But if you start making the decisions on, does this decision glorify God? You you got a much better chance of God blessing it than not. I can promise you that. Making decisions that glorify Him. So those are the 5. You do those 5, you don't have to worry about leadership buzzwords or any of that stuff. People focused on themselves are less likely to make change happen. People looking to serve others, I mean, if you come in here this morning looking to serve others, you've got this leadership thing licked. You can go home. You can be excused after lunch because you already got it down. You want to unravel your life real quick? Stop doing anything for others. That's how you can unravel your life real quick. If we put some of this stuff into practice, what time is it, Leanne? Oh, I got 15 minutes. If we put some of this into practice, we will win. I promise you. And your teams around you will be winners too. And if it doesn't work, well, you got 2 other speakers after me. Maybe they'll. It's not about being smarter to be a better leader and more successful. It's not about gaining more knowledge. Oh, it can help. Gaining more knowledge can help. That may be true to a certain extent. I've read so many leadership books, and you probably have too. At some point in that leadership, it's going to say, read more books. I am reading more books. I'm reading this one. That's my quota for the year. Nowadays we're taught from children on up with an endless, relentless direction that we must have college degrees, master's degrees, PhDs, certifications, licensing of some sort. The wisest man ever to walk the face of the earth, Solomon, said, I, wisdom, dwell together with prudence. You know what prudence means? Good judgment. Common sense. That's what that means. How many people you're here saying, I don't really want to go to college. I'm just looking for ways to learn to have more common sense. People just looking to gain knowledge, or they're trying to win at the wrong game. They're down the street at the soccer stadium. They ain't even at the right football stadium where the real game's being played. If you want a better work environment for your team, because we hear that all the time, we just need a better work environment. How about let's learn how to forgive one another? Let's start there. Grace in the workplace. You ever heard of that? Unheard of. Because there's no perfect leaders, so why would there be perfect team members? Humility and forgiveness, and we talked about humility, the pro athlete example, but humility and forgiveness need to happen when commitment to someone is involved. I gotta pick up the pace here, but we've been doing this for an hour. If we're going to actually do anything with this information that we've talked about, it's going to take some discipline. Discipline is a great tool. It helps, measure our performance versus our goals, whether we've been given goals as part of a team, or we've set our own personal expectations. Setting goals is a good exercise to do, to desire better results. But that's where the discipline comes in. That's where the discipline comes in. Setting goals, but setting goals and having dreams doesn't mean a whole lot if we don't have the discipline to see them through. They ain't worth the paper they're written on. You know where the graveyard for dreams is located? Right next to the starting block of good intentions. I would go on to say it's right next to the starting block of execution. Execution. You know, I've got the ball on the tee, and my arms in the air, and we're ready to kick off. We're ready to go. It's game time. We're ready to kick it. And you look over, and you see the grave digger. The grave digger, he's over there just digging away. He's just smiling. He's digging. You know, he's got your headstone laying right next to it. He's already got that ready. He says, Matt's dreams. He's fixed to bury him the minute I quit. Goals die at execution. It becomes too hard. We want results without effort. We want to to get the reward without the effort. You know, and the bigger the dreams, the bigger the effort. How bad you want to win in life is how bad you want to accomplish those goals. Are we willing to get up earlier? Are we willing to stay later? Are we willing to do it again tomorrow? Discipline, talking about discipline doesn't come from an external source. You don't inherit it because your daddy or your mama had discipline, so I have it too. It don't work that way. You're not going to walk across the street to 7-Eleven and buy you a bottle of it. It's what you and I decide to do, what we believe. It's what we believe in. Imposed discipline doesn't make you discipline either. I mean, it can help. Do this or you're fired. If we have a problem in a relationship, are we disciplined enough to make the other person a priority? Are we disciplined enough to say, I need to spend more time with that person? Are we pray for them, serve them? Look at other ways, serve ourselves less in the process. But there has to be a beginning to discipline. We've got to start somewhere with something. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't know, stop eating fruitcake. I don't know, go for a walk for one day. One day. Then we'll worry about two. But you got to start somewhere. There's no magic switch. There's no magic circumstance or some feeling you're going to get that says it's time. The only source you've got is to make the purpose the driver. And that motivation has to be more than yourself. It has to be. You've got to remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing. If you wake up thinking you're going to motivate yourself today, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Self-motivation, there's a section of a bookstore about 3/4 of a block long about self-help and motivation. Self-motivation will not last. It won't. It's not going to last. If you don't have a purpose of why you are on this planet and what you're supposed to be doing while you're here, you need to go see that long-haired guy who spoke before me before you leave today, and I'm serious. Because without that purpose, you will not motivate yourself for anything substantial. Just like you'll lie to yourself. Just like at the time, well, I just don't have the time right now. I'm not getting the support I need. Lie. I don't have the resources I need. Lie. I'm not sure the best way to go about doing it. Lie. I'm too old. I'm too young. We need to recognize the lies. It's time to stop the lies and start winning. We need to start winning. And that's how you learn to lead like Rudolph. And that's why Santa always picks him. That's why Santa always picks him. He's ready. You be ready. I want to be ready. Let's be ready. Questions? We're out of time.
Actually, you have 20 minutes.
Oh, we do? Thought I had an hour.
Now you have an hour and 15.
Oh, well, fantastic. Oh, wait, hour and 15. I got 11:09.
We went from.
Oh, okay. Well, fantastic. Well, I sped it up there at the end. We got time for questions.
Yeah. So how do we implement this in a secular company, right? I mean, 2 out of your 5 are about God, right? And how do you interject that into a culture that doesn't really want to talk about religion or faith or anything like that, right? How do you get to that point where you can have these conversations? I mean, I can't say it on my weekly status meeting, hey, I just want to glorify God for everything He did for us this week. That's.
You'll have one of those reviews.
Yeah. I mean, how can you interject the God stuff into the secular, company?
Well, I think it starts with being unashamed to do it, I would say. Be bold enough to do it. Because it would take boldness, but I don't think you start doing it in a team meeting like in that scenario. But the people you're leading, if they know who you are, really know who you are, and you don't hide that, and you're not ashamed of that, they'll respect you. If they respect you as a leader, they'll respect that aspect of you, is what I say.
If you're talking to them individually and they kind of catch on to what you're doing, it's like talking about coming here. Yeah, I work in a company that will not let you speak of religion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like a book of what you don't do. But individually, I have conversations with each one of my team members. I know about their kids. I know about what they're doing. They know what I'm doing. They know what this is about. I laughed and said I'm going to a naughty or nice leadership conference, and they all go, "What is that?" And so I tell them. I don't have to say the overt thing in the team meeting so much, but there are times when you can interject that in an individual conversation, probably with less risk. But it's one of those things where, no, I can't get up on the stage and say, glory to God for all the things that have happened this week. I would probably be gone by the afternoon. Just that's their culture.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not easy to know that you're against that. You're always bumping up against it. It is hard. I had the same question. How do I do more than just what we do individually?
Well, as long as if we're given the glory, we're not necessarily saying we have to make force other people to give God the glory. So, but I hear what. I mean, it doesn't go without saying. I mean, that's the challenge for all of us believers as we walk through life, right? Is to how do we make an impact on the culture around us, whether it's what the church is trying to do to make an impact, what I'm trying to do to make an impact. There is a challenge of recipe there, for sure. But great comment. I mean, and it's a real comment, and it's a real dealing with. Any other questions about the material we covered today, or my background, or Huey Magoo's, or where's lunch?
I think just a comment, not so much a question. I think it's important too when God is leading you in a direction, and you talked earlier about risk and faith and failure, and how you look at that. But I think too often as Christians, and it goes to your comfort as well. Well, God, you've called me to do this, and now I've just had this failure. So did you not call me to do it? I think that causes us to question, just because it got hard for a minute. But then if we go back and we think about the amoeba. Well, no, I put this stumbling block in your way because I wanted you to fight through that and not quit. And I think sometimes in the Christian community, we just get so well, if God's called me to do it, it's gonna be all rainbows and, you know, puppy dogs, and it's gonna be easy, and it's not. I mean, you know, even with Christmas Dreams, we've been chasing this since 2009, and every time we think something's happening, and we go back, you know, we had this group that came and visited, and we thought they were gonna give us millions of dollars. The ladies were all came to see us set up at the hospital, and they were promising all this, and then he goes back to California, and the head guy's like, Christians, Christmas? No, we're not giving them money. So I was like, well, what was that all about? You know, you get excited, so you could say, well, maybe God's not calling us to do that, but that wasn't it. I mean, there was something we learned there. You know, I'm like, we learned we could sell this, you know. So what do you take and move forward? And so not to worry about being comfortable or that it's going to be easy, but you've got to push through. And, you know, Jeff always says, you know, maybe he's not going to open a door, we just have to make a hole through some drywall and figure a way through. So
Yeah,
be encouraged, I guess, when the problems come.
well, I think that's an interesting comment, because your definition of success as you move into something is not necessarily the same definition of success as you come out of something.
Mm.
It's never what you think it is. What you perceive it to be in the beginning is never what it is as you come out of something at the end of it. And the success you might have valued so much at the beginning may be worthless compared to the success you gained as you came out. And it was a totally different success than you anticipated. Or you put pieces together and realized that something else actually came to light. That was a bigger calling than you ever even realized. And I've seen that over and over again. The part about 4 and 5, I think if you're enacting on 2 and 3, innately you're doing 4 and 5 without ever saying a word. It's the experience, it's that compassion and interest, which radiate 4 and 5 without ever speaking a word about 4 and 5. It's the nature that leads you to that. So that was just my take on it. Because I know it's hard and you can't always necessarily express those things, but the actions are much more worthy than just the word and the expression.
If you look at, people who studied look at satisfiers to employees, isn't it shocking to us that money is never the top? You know, I mean, it never is, and often it's like 5 or 6. You know, so when they're asked, the employees are asked, what do you like about here? What are things that make you feel valuable? What's this? What's that? It's not money, and so the things you list here are values. You know, so how do we? You've already said it. How do we value those people around us? You know, well, we treat them in a godly fashion. You know, as you say, we can show grace. We can show love. We can be honest. We can show integrity. You know, we don't have to mention God in any of that, but we offer that work unto Him. You know, and then that in turn, people really look to you as a leader and not just a boss.
Yeah, that boldness factor is a challenging one, because in secular companies like David and Cameron mentioned, you know. But back to my comment I made earlier about us being willing to take risks and not doing what's hard. We think our lives, like I said, are going to blow up in smoke if we step up. If we step up and we make a comment that gets us written up or even fired, we think our lives are over as we know it, and they're not. They're not. You will find another job. God will put you in a place where you can be provided for, even if that was the worst thing that happened to you. And so it's this misconception.
It's a lie of Satan,
Yes.
right? It's a lie he wants you to believe.
And they've got it, and that's, you know, we're getting now, we can get off the rails pretty quickly, but talking about the church and the culture and its ability to impact, and how we've got ran out of Dodge from making an impact in the culture because we have to be quiet now. We can't, you know, we don't, you know, somebody's going to get in trouble, somebody's going to get arrested, somebody's going to get fired, somebody's going to get reprimanded in some way. And it's, at the end of the day, we stop making those decisions to be unashamed and be bold because we think our lives will go up in smoke. So, well, guys, thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for the time and the comments and the questions. That was all fantastic. So.